Almost every time I mention that I'm studying new media and traditional media, someone will get right up in my face and say, "Are you going to talk about newspapers?" Everyone seems to have a vested interest in newspapers and their decline, even if they don't care about any other aspect of media. And I really couldn't figure this out. There's not a lot of statistics online about the direct correlation between newspapers closing up shop and our society. I don't understand why everyone's so angry. I still read the newspaper, I just do it on my phone. What's the difference? But then I was having a discussion with an old teacher of mine, and he kind of opened my eyes. To him, the death of the newspaper represents the death of everything about the traditional family unit. Over at the website Newspaper Death Watch, they've been watching the decline of newspapers since it was founded in 2007 by Paul Gillen. They've chronicled hundreds of newspapers closing down, pulling back on delivery days, letting staff go. They prove what most of us just take to be a given, that the newspaper hasn't adapted well to this new media world. However, Gillen, the founder of the site, loves newspapers. Just like my teacher, he feels something nostalgic about them. And that's really what it is. Something about newspapers feels emotional to him. And I think that I get it. There's that iconic picture of the family around the breakfast table, eating eggs and drinking coffee, and the dad is reading the newspaper.
The economy.
But I don't really understand why that's different from this.
The economy.
If anything, I just want my dad to talk to me at breakfast, which he doesn't, 'cause I don't have breakfast. School starts too early. When did school start in the 50s? This nostalgia feels a little misplaced. It seems like people are reaching for something that never really existed. That nice picture of the family in the 50s is not all it's cracked up to be. The 50s kind of sucked. This nostalgia for newspapers crops up everywhere, and I think that's why people want me to talk about it. It reminds them of their childhood, and it reminds them of their family, and it feels scary to move away from that. It's not really about not getting your newspaper every day that is making people upset. It's the connotations and the idea of the newspaper. So of course, after I've already decided that everyone who thinks the newspaper should be saved is a sniveling idiot and is just feeling emotional and trying to hold on to something that was never really there, I had this amazing talk with a college admissions rep. I was talking to him about this project, and I mentioned that everyone wanted me to talk about newspapers. He was pretty apathetic. He doesn't really care. Newspapers can die off or turn into something different online, and it really doesn't affect him. But he did say the tiny newspaper in his tiny hometown in Ohio can't die off. It's too important. It's where the obituaries are, the ad space, the stats to the high school football game. Those things are important to the community and their industry. So I guess I understand that. And maybe I'm just as emotional about newspapers as everyone else is, because that little town sounds nice. Even if it's not a newspaper in a tiny town, of course there's another side. It's not all about the emotions tied to them. There is some serious economic impact where newspapers stay or they leave, or newspapers are businesses is what I'm saying. Do you know what? Yeah. But to me, it feels like that isn't as important. A lot of media isn't really about the money-making part. It's about how it connects to people. For some reason, the newspaper, which is literally news, touched people. Touched older people so that they miss it, and touched younger people so that they think they're missing out on something when they don't have a newspaper. So this emotional aspect of the newspaper is really important. And I hope that at some point in the future we get more numbers and more statistics about how it's actually affecting us. Because though I don't think it's affected my family dynamic at all, maybe it has. And maybe it really is changing the way we see the world as something much, much bigger than a little town in Ohio.